Hi, I'm Peter Capaldi. I play the Doctor, and you're watching EMS Productions.
Hello everyone, welcome along to today's video where I'm going to be reviewing this week's episode, The Eaters of Light. Well, welcome along to my absolute sauna of a room today. Apologies if you hear any random noises and stuff. I literally just cannot do this video without the window shut, otherwise I might collapse. Well, we approach the end of the series with episode 10, The Eaters of Light, written by Rona Munro, of course, who wrote Survival, the final ever episode of Classic Who, so it was the first time that we ever got to see a Classic Who writer writing a new Who story for the first time. And I think overall, she did a pretty reasonable job of it. I'm not going to lie, to me this episode felt a little bit like a filler episode. It was just a bit of a sort of romp, a simple romp. It had a very Classic Who vibe to it, and it kind of to some degree just felt like we were waiting to get to the finale. It was just sort of an episode to get through, almost more than anything else. I have to say I'd never heard of this whole Roman Legion thing before this. Well, before I started reading about this episode, I never knew about the missing Ninth Legion or something, so I wasn't particularly interested in the whole idea and everything. But it was nice to see a historical story, again going back a couple of thousand years. There were some very stunning visuals certainly from the filming in, or what's meant to be Scotland at least. All those visuals of all the sort of hills and everything were really fantastically shot. And certainly it's been a strength of this series, but I think it is just a strength generally in Doctor Who, is they really do get some good location filming. But in terms of the plot itself, it was a fairly kind of standard Doctor Who plot. There was a monster, and they had to defeat it. Okay, that's probably 80% of Doctor Who episodes. Obviously I was a little bit more involved with the Roman Legion and the farmers, the Picts I think they were called, who sort of were a bit conflicting each other and basically had slaughtered each other a few days before, but had more or less been actually slaughtered by this monster, the Eater of Light, who's for whatever reason coming through a massive portal in the earth, in some sort of gate around the cairn, and eating all the light of the earth and the sun and everything. I didn't feel like it was massively well explained where this alien came from, actually what it was or anything. It just kind of was there. It was accepted, it was there, and it was a thing. So it was a little bit kind of left open, I guess, with the whole monster thing. But I must admit that the CGI for the Eater of Light, this monster, was not fantastic, to be honest with you. I mean, they clearly avoided trying to show the shots of it as much as possible. So there was very little actually of it, clearly to save money more than anything else, but even when we did see it, the CGI, it was reasonable, it was okay, but it wasn't the best we've seen on Doctor Who in a while, I would say. And it just felt like the monster was just suddenly defeated rather simply, just by pointing mirrors at it and poking sticks at it by a bunch of farmers and a couple of Roman soldiers, and suddenly, boom, it was all over. It was a very sort of rushed conclusion after a bit of build-up to it. It was nice, some of the nice stuff a bit earlier on with Bill and the Romans and the sort of conversation they were having there and everything. That's quite nicely set out, and the Doctor then getting involved with the Picts as well, and Nardole having some brilliant lines as usual. I love a bit of comedy Nardole. So there were some nice scenes early on, but then again it just felt like it was a bit of a rushed conclusion that was just suddenly over in no time a bit. But Peter Capaldi did get some really good lines and some good dialogue, I thought, in this episode. Some really nice kind of thoughts and ideas about how he hears the whole universe as children and this kind of thing. And it very much felt like he was kind of playing the fatherly figure to all these very young soldiers and farmers, essentially, and trying to kind of tell them to grow up and really kind of get them to kind of, do their thing, really. And I think that was kind of reflected, obviously, at the end when they do grow up and go and defend it instead of the Doctor by kind of pushing him aside and saying it's our job to do it. So I thought that was just a nice little way of kind of portraying the Doctor as very much this kind of old man, fatherly, almost grandfatherly figure that's having to kind of teach these young people and really make them mature and learn through the episode. And it's something that was again reflected with Rona Munro's previous episode, Survival, which featured a lot of young people and was very much focused around sort of that group of young people in Survival, and then again there's a huge sort of a couple of separate groups of young people in this episode. So clearly she, at least in Doctor Who, likes to focus on writing young people, and I think she does a quite good job of it, because often when you get child actors and younger people, I mean they weren't really child actors, but certainly younger people, sometimes it can be a little bit hit and miss as to how good they are. Just look at In the Forest of the Night, where there were some rather lacking child characters, shall we say, but they're a little bit older in this episode, and certainly I think all the acting was really good across the board. There wasn't any dodgy performances, shall we say, which was good. But apart from that, there's not a huge amount more to say about this episode. It was very much bog standard Doctor Who. I have to be honest with it. It was a solidly enjoyable 45 minutes, but it's not something I'm going to rush back and watch again. It was just a standard episode, really, one of your run-of-the-mill mid-series episodes, and really, at this stage, all the focus is on next week and the finale. And so that does bring me on to those last few minutes of the episode, which are basically detached from the actual story of the episode, but the stuff between the Doctor and Missy and everything. The Doctor's now actually letting Missy out of the vault. I mean, she is still pretty much trapped inside the TARDIS, but he is actually letting her out and have a little watch of what they're going on and doing and everything. And it does feel like he's getting closer and closer to kind of believing that Missy is true with her turning good and everything, which I'm not convinced. I think she will turn at some point in the finale. Maybe she'll get caught up with the Sim Master and suddenly realise that she's evil or something and then go and kill Bill or something like that, I think. I can't truly believe that Missy is going to turn actually good. I just can't really. But it was some really nice scenes between 12 and Missy at the end of the episode there. I mean, they pretty much, every time they're together, they have some brilliant scenes, some brilliant dialogue there. I'm sure it was probably written by Moffat, that final scene. And just, yeah, that sort of how much, you can see how much the Doctor wants Missy to turn good, but I think just from so many past experiences, he just can't quite believe it's true and really think it's true. And maybe that'll be his downfall in next week's episode. He finally reaches a point where he thinks it's true, and then boom, something goes wrong. But there you go, guys. I'll leave it at that on what's going to go on next week for now, as I've got 2 or 3 videos coming up in the next few days about what's going to happen this week in the finale, because I am seriously hyped for this episode, as I really wasn't too fussed about the Eaters of Light. It was just an episode to get through, a bit of fun, but an episode to get through before this week's finale. So watch out for some videos in the next few days focusing on what's going to come and what's going to happen this weekend. But there we have it, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. It was just a solid episode. 7 out of 10, run of the mill, nothing special about it, to be honest with you. It's not my core kind of episode so much. I'm not a huge fan of historical episodes overall, I have to say. I don't sort of dislike them as such, but I tend to like the sort of either present day stories or future stories with a bit more high tech kind of thing to it, I've just never been that fussed about history in general, as bad as that sounds. So yeah, it just wasn't quite my kind of episode, but it was a fair amount of, it was enjoyable enough. And it's always good to see a bit of the 12th Doctor. So thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new here. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below of what you thought of this episode and whether you thought it was any good, and any theories you've got for next week's episode as well. But other than that, I will see you again very soon for another video. Goodbye.